You can send me a link to the repo. I messed up yesterday when I asked Nick to do
Okay.
it in his actual repository.
Now I got
It
the
was
video for
everything.
Eugene and Andrew. So while this doesn't have much in it, there's a lot that's going to be covered. That's why I'm going to need y'all to kind of follow along with me. I didn't want to introduce too many things for people that haven't messed with it at all. It's going to do a couple of things. We're going to practice integrating an asset from old Unity into the brand new Unity. So what does that help us with? Getting art assets that were made for old Unity, or basically just getting art assets that don't work well. Okay, it's not intended. So, and then we're going to script the behaviors for that asset. It's fairly simple once you get it set up. And then we're going to demonstrate some fixes for unexpected import problems that you may
Yeah,
have.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay,
that's what I was about to
so you're
do.
going to
Is
become familiar with the
is show
FBX
you guys
importer
what
that
this
Unity
actually
has
does.
and the 3 different tabs that come along with that, which is these right here. The model tab, the rig tab, and the animations tab. Okay, so this is something that y'all probably run across from just importing regular
All right, thanks.
models into your game, period. Okay, so once you guys have your project up, I'll post this asset.
Oh, so follow
Hell
along, you
yeah.
can like do it.
I mean,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Or you, I mean,
Report.
I tell you what, since I'm recording it, dude, we'll just,
DM
you don't have to,
recorded.
you can follow along if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's hard to
yeah,
see,
you
like,
can't even, you would have to move and whatnot. So, yeah, I'll just do it. And then since I'm recording it, I'll post it up. Can you put the stream up, man? And see, make sure that I have sound, because it sounds pretty important. So I'm gonna go grab the original asset off the asset store.
no, it's in the lights.
Yeah, you can hit that, hit the 3. All right, so just download this guy. Hopefully it won't overwrite my D.
You got sound.
All right, sweet. I'll move this around.
Huh? Stuff. Hold up. It is. It is. It is. Um.
Okay. I had to bring the other one back in with the brand new guy because I didn't save the
So whenever you
FBX.
serialize your stuff,
So here we go.
you may want to be a little bit more organized with it. So just make that serializable and this serializable, and not do this, right?
What the heck?
Hey, Matthew, mute your screen.
Huh?
Mute your screen.
Mute the stream?
Yeah, it's you have it open probably.
Huh?
You have it open probably, so it's probably like relaying what you're saying. Yeah. Into the stream as well. Like, do you have it open in a web browser?
Nuh-uh. I don't have any internet open.
Why am I getting multiple sounds of you?
Oh. I don't know.
No, not there anymore.
Oh my Jesus,
Such I
what
heard
happened to my
previously.
dude? This is not what he looked like before, man.
Hey man, he took T-pose when he left. Skipped leg day.
Yeah, he totally skipped leg day. Well, I guess I could just do it. I'll just do it from nothing. Yeah, it looked like it added too many of these things, man. Yeah, there we go. Back in the gym. Okay, so bringing this asset in, let it be noted. So this is an asset that's generated off the old Unity. We have generic, which means it doesn't support retargeting of any kind. If you bring this in, you're basically going to have to just switch and swatch between them like a regular sprite switching transitions. So to look at his animations, we have the following. He has like this attack animation. He has like getting hit in the face. Okay. And then he has some other regular like just sitting still. Okay. And he has this running animation as well. The goal of today is to make this guy perform all of the actions that Ethan does, because that's our go-to basically. If we look at Ethan, he has these. Okay, so this is just Ethan. The animations associated with him are these.
Oh man, he's going
Oh,
somewhere.
he's booking it, dude.
See, Ethan ain't skipped leg day.
No,
That is
no,
like-
Ethan ain't skipped leg day. Basically, the goal of it is that we just take in the skeleton, put him in that little window, and then it worked. If we go to right here, add another tab. Locked. No, I got it. I got it. So I have to catch my bearings there. So I'm gonna drag and drop the prefab for Ethan. Just gonna plop him right there, and then you'll see like he's gonna perform the animations in the window right here. However, if I take the skeleton and just drop him in there, yeah, you're not gonna get the same effect. So you prop him in there and you press play, and nothing. Okay. The reason that this is because the bones they're not bound to the skeleton. The skeleton is an old rig. So the best thing that we could do is just hope this thing is jointed properly, that it's rigged properly. So in order to do that, what we need to do is open up the FBX and look at it. We'll take a look at it. So here's the FBX. Skeleton at Skin is the name of it. The first thing we want to do is we're going to make this thing a humanoid rig. All right. And then we can hit apply. And then immediately you're just going to get a whole bunch of errors. So we'll save that. And then we'll go and we'll look at the actual rig. So if you mess with Anima 2D at all, you'll notice that there's a lot of similarities with this thing, okay? If you're in here, there's nothing to be scared of. You can drag and drop this stuff as long as you save copies of it, and see if you could get some of the types of behaviors that you're looking for. So the errors that this thing was complaining about is probably the root position is not set up right, but for the most part, the rig is set up pretty good. The only thing is like this sword is just not in a good spot. So what we'll do is we're gonna take the sword and just we'll move it. Okay. So we're gonna reparent the sword to another object. So we have to find out what joint it is, in which it's this one, BIP 001. But notice like BIP 001 is, well, let me see, which one is this? Yeah, that is BIP 001. So you're gonna have to like, well, no, it should be this one. Yeah, there we go. So we'll take that joint, the prop 1 joint, and just put it in his hand. See if that works, okay? And then unfortunately it does work. Spoiler alert. So collapse all of this. Nope. I needed that. There we go. So if you drop it under the spine, that'll parent this joint to the spine. And if we start moving it around in here, you'll see that it's going to move with him. Okay? Yeah, he's really getting it in. So we'll go ahead and we'll just put it in his hand. Right clavicle, right hand. Rip. Then move it up. Put a chair. Apply that. We'll go here. And then we'll kind of see like what we have going on. And now you see the sword is like moving with him, okay? Y'all with me so far? Okay. So when we hit done, we're not going to get any animations from this guy. Hit this. What? Okay. Yeah, you good, you good. Alright. I'm not sure why that's showing up like that, but okay, so now this dude is a full humanoid rig. We generated a humanoid avatar. The avatar is what's going to hold the the skeleton information, all the joint structure, and then we'll see what we get whenever we look at the actual third-person controller here in models. Look at him, getting it. So now, don't worry about the sword. We'll fix that here in a minute.
It's a spirit sword.
Yeah, it's a spirit sword, yeah. But notice, like, yeah, we're going to inherit all of the information from those animations that were keyframed against, you know, Ethan's avatar. So, taking this guy in, we'll just go ahead and make a prefab of him. what I wanted. I think it's 101. Yeah, get that out of here. Rip. Okay. So bringing this guy in, since we bound him against the Ethan avatar, they already have an animator controller that's set up to get that rig going. So we can actually just attach that same animator controller to the skeleton since he has an avatar definition that's mapped with it. Okay. So if we put the third person animator controller here, and then add these scripts. I wonder if I could just copy this. Yeah, I don't want to do that. So the scripts that I'm adding are the scripts that are associated with the AI third person guy. So the ones that you're gonna need the nav mesh agent. Oh no, he's such a little baby. Oh, y'all run into that? The scale factor? Being a whoa, hey,
I would not change the skill factor.
0.1. Try that one.
I don't know, I think he looks pretty good. Yeah, I don't mess with the skill
Man,
factor.
Ask him, dude. Ask him.
Yeah, so you definitely want to do the scale factor stuff before you mess with the actual retargeting of the rig.
He could be in Twisted Metal. That's a compass.
Yeah. All right. So we ain't not gonna touch that. We'll put that back the way it was. And now we got little baby again. And then what we'll do is we'll just like I guess just make this dude big. I mean that's something that y'all been dealing with, I'm sure. Yeah. All right. AI character controller. Oh, look, it added all of it. Okay, so if you just add an AI character controller, it'll put all of the required components on here. Yeah, we'll get into that one here in a second. So now we'll fix the capsule collider for this dude to be more like a normal person. Yeah.
I'm curious as to why they set between up with an admin.
Well, that's what we're gonna be using to like move him around. Does that answer your question?
Not really, because like I don't see anything that he would need to like move
Well,
around.
that's the thing though. A nav mesh agent has to have a blanket to walk on. Period. Even if he's like just to move to a place, you could just say set destination. It could be like no blockers or anything inside of the actual nav mesh. In which this nav mesh is I mean it's pretty simple. Yeah, I'm not sure how to pull it up right now.
I guess it does.
What's up? Yeah, there we go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he still needs like a place to like run around on. In which in the demo, if you have him up here, oh, this is gonna no reference pretty hard. You're just setting a target on the actual on the blanket itself. Man, I don't know if this is gonna work out, Coach. Because like with his scale being 10, all of the components inside are just not liking that at all. Yep. Yeah, just for the purposes of demoing this thing out, I'll just set it up like this. Nice. The dude's just sitting there. Oh, did I? There we go. Okay. So this is a start. Oh, so the dude's like hovering in the air, right? So why you do that? Well, this is related to the nav mesh agent. We have to set his the base offset to be like a number that makes sense, or actually we just need to reset it. Oh. 0.1, 2. All right.
Man, I like that turn. That turn's pretty good.
Yeah,
Look like he's about to juice somebody out.
he is. So what about the animations that came with him though? So this is where we're going to talk about like how you should actually interact with animations. Does anyone not know how to fire an animation with an animator controller? Okay, sweet. That's good. That's good. If I could just assume that you guys know nothing, that would be great. So our guy has a list of animations with him, where we had this really cool animation right here, the attack animation. So we want this, okay? We don't want to just lose this because we do not know how to animate stuff. So what we'll do is the first thing we'll do is we'll put the actual hand, the sword, back in this dude's hand, and you can do that by actually just dropping it into his hand.
So we moved it.
Yeah, it didn't stay. It didn't stay for some reason. And I don't know why it did whenever I set the other one up. Whenever I re-imported everything, it ruined it.
You changed it to generic.
Yeah, it didn't stay whenever I had it though, from the generic one to begin with. So if I put the just BIP 001 prop one right here up in his hand, like you'll see like it's doing everything that it is supposed to. It's just not maintaining the settings whenever I come back out.
So the run animation you did was Ethan's.
Yeah.
But we're trying to use one that was made for him before.
Yep, that's what we're gonna do here in a second.
I feel like changing the way his sword is hooked on might mess with it.
Yeah, it didn't stay. It didn't stay for some reason. I don't know why. It did whenever I set the other one up. Whenever I re-imported everything, it ruined it. So if I put the just BIP 001 prop one right here up in his hand, like you'll see like it's doing everything that it is supposed to. It's just not maintaining the settings whenever I come back out. Yeah, so now he's running with the sword.
That's pretty lit.
There we go. Alright, sweet. Okay, so we look at his animation here. When we go to the rig, it's still trying to use that generic type. What we need to do is we can just copy the definition from another avatar that we defined, which we already had set up, and it seems to be working. So we'll designate the source for this to be skeleton. Let me see what the avatar is. Skeleton at skin. That's a good name.
So the other rig is generic. This rig is specified.
Yeah, it was. It was. So the other one, so when we initially imported it in, it came in as a generic type of animation. That used to be the standard. But we want to do retargeting inside of the engine. Okay. So what we do is we convert the older one to a humanoid rig, generate an avatar from that, and then all of our animations that we previously had, all we need to do is map them onto the new definition. Okay. So we'll hit that. Look over here. All right.
That's what I was talking about.
Yep. And then we're going to show it with this just running, and then we're going to fix the sword. So if you want to add an animation, you need to add the animation to the animator controller that this thing belongs to. Okay. So you can do that by finding the animation, which is this guy. All right. You add a transition from where you want to, initialize the attack, and you'll see he's in this idle state, and we hit play. He's gonna do that. All right. Once we're done with the attack, we make a transition back to grounded. Okay. We need to set a parameter to fire the animation. That parameter is going to be a trigger type, and we'll call it attack. All right. Whenever you click on the transition, Tony, you can see right here. Here's your conditions. When should I do this thing? I'm going to put it whenever the attack trigger goes off. So basically, as soon as this box gets checked off, it's going to immediately transition. Okay.
So is it a boolean or a trigger?
No, you see, and that's the thing. So a trigger is consumed whenever it's evaluated, when the transition's done. Okay, so you don't need to do state management inside of the script that's firing it. That's a big issue. Okay, you should never talk to the animator controller. You should never go, "Are you done with that state?" Okay, that was one of the questions that are on the slide. Where did I put it?
So once he's done with the animation, it automatically turns it on.
Yeah. Should your script attempt to stay in sync with the animator, or should the animator be set up in a way to reject bad input? So that's what we're going to be covering whenever we talk about doing these things, because it's totally sufficient to just send a speed variable through and then have the guy go to a state based on his current speed. For example, like blending a walk to a run, and then whenever he's not running anymore, have him go back to idle. It's a little more convoluted whenever you start talking about trying to get this guy to perform one animation in a given state, and then how to sync from that. Because I mean, you're waiting for the state to end in order for you to finish. Okay. So we hit play. So we have our guys just idling right here. And if you go to the animator, we'll pop up the animator out right here. Probably make this big. Okay. Okay, so basically you can click this inside of here as long as you have auto live link on, and he's going to perform those actions inside of the engine. Okay.
So I'm a bit confused about how, like, what you changed to make it to where his walk animation has the sword linked to his hand,
Okay.
but his other animation has it as it used to be.
Okay. Yeah, and that's what we're gonna fix. When we go back in, you're gonna see that those settings didn't change. We have to make sure that whenever we hook up the rig and we change how it's set up, the joint hierarchy, we need to make sure that those settings carry over. So if you go here and you click on the skeleton skin avatar, so we'll configure this avatar, save the scene. See, whenever he moves, the sword is moving with respect to his crotch. Okay, so we have to move this thing around, and we can go by grabbing the prop 01 and then dropping it in his hand, and then moving it. Okay. See, now you see, let's make him attack. Please work. Yeah, so that looks a lot better, even though he's not like moving around and whatnot. Does that answer your question? Like what we did?
Not really. Like,
All right.
I mean, I don't want to hold anybody back.
No, dude, that's ask questions, man. I don't want to go too fast because I'm under some assumption that you guys know this already.
I feel like I missed the part where you changed the way he's connected, because I saw you move it to his hand,
Mhm.
and then you moved around like the sword was in his hand. But then when you did the attack animation, the sword was still jointed to his hip.
It's because he moved the sword in the hierarchy,
In the hierarchy in the game.
but he didn't apply it to the actual.
Okay, I see what happened.
So the attack animation was playing it on the avatar, but there was just a synchronization between like the actual hierarchy and the avatar was different. And it just didn't match up.
Right. So, does that clear it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you shouldn't move things in the transform hierarchy if you want to apply to the avatar. Because it'll just mess you up.
Right. And then whenever we import it, you see the problem is like whenever if we delete this and then bring it back in, it's not saving the hierarchy. Like it puts the prop 01, it doesn't put it in the proper place. Even though it's positioned properly here, it's still going to be rooted against his hip. Wow. He is super small. Again.
Okay. the opposite of no problem.
Is everything like super big on your side?
No, I mean, yes.
So you see like it's just sitting, it's floating out here. We have to actually just move it. Manuel. Okay.
But Ben said to not do that.
Do what?
I'm kind of confused.
No, you have to do it this way. Even if you set it up properly inside of here, if it doesn't maintain the hierarchy from the avatar creation, you're just gonna have to move it manually. The avatar definition when we're right here, so we'll save this up. Every single time we come back to this thing, dude, it resets for some reason, okay? Like you have to move this thing inside of the actual game. And I'm not even sure like if it's doing anything if we just leave it like this, since we're manually moving it and rotating it about, like if that would even make a difference. So
You should be able to just set it and apply and optimize the transform hierarchy.
yeah, I'm getting a bunch of errors though whenever I optimize the transform hierarchy. I also lose that object, and you would have to expose the transform in order to move it again. Okay, so this thing just automatically fires the attack trigger immediately. And we don't want that. So we need to make a script that talks to the animator, all right? So let me get the script going. I'm almost done.
But we just do this in like a player movement.
Yep. Yep.
And then the animator reacts based off of the values.
Mm-hmm. I'll just set this up real quick without this, all this jazz. Okay, so the skeleton behavior script, it just has one thing in it. All right. Can y'all see that? Okay. Yeah. So you get a reference to the animator, and then you just interact with this thing through string values. Okay. Whenever you do animator.setTrigger, that's just going to send a string event to any trigger parameters and see if they match against that name, in which we do have one called attack. And then it'll basically check the box off and then fire your state for you. You with me, Tony? Okay, so if you hit space, he'll do this. And then if it hits the end of the transition, it does. He'll do it again, and he'll eat the transition, and then go right back to grounded. But he doesn't do it immediately. The reason he doesn't do it immediately is because the transition has a property in it that has to wait for the state to actually end before it executes the next one. So you can fix that by, if you go into the actual transition for it, you give it no exit time, no fixed duration, and then he'll perform the animation immediately.
So last not moving anymore.
He doesn't have the navigation components and stuff on him. Like the
Because you pulled him in.
right, because I pulled him in fresh. So how should you interact with this? Because you like, what if he's like attacks and then he gets hit? Like if you want some kind of blend in, like for that, usually you would ask the animator through a lot of convolution, like what is the current state, what is, is this a valid state, so on and so forth, where you have to go through a ton of hoops in order to get that information.
You could give priority to animation. Like if you're in the middle of an attack animation, if you get hit, the like hit back like wince animation would have more priority over the attack, so he would like it would take over.
Right. So what values do you feed in to even let it know it did that?
I'm just saying, like, you could have a number system that has priorities. Like maybe you didn't want it to happen that way, and you want the attack animation to finish through instead of wince.
Yeah, so I mean that's a good point, because like you're saying, there's a lot of conditions involved whenever it comes to animation, and we have to like interact with the controller. Even more so, Unity added a new feature in like 5.2 that allows you to do this pretty cleanly, and that's by adding state behaviors to the actual states themselves. Okay, so if you add a behavior for this particular attack, okay, I already made this skeleton attack state behavior. So basically, you have all of these overrides that you can implement for the state. So you can basically send events that let people know cleanly that this state ended, I should clean up or do something afterwards. Yeah.
Can you do IK?
Yeah, on Animator IK, you can do all of that.
What's that?
What?
On state IK.
Whenever your rig enters like an inverse kinematic mode, the entire joint structure responds differently. So if you say you want to grab a ledge or something, you need to, that's like an on animator IK. That's like telling the rig that the rest of the joints are now going to respond differently, because there's when you have IK, it's inverse kinematic. So like if you go to grab something, it's going to pull the rest of you. Even more so, like you can move the wrist and drive the forearm, and you can drive the shoulder. Okay. Yeah.
Since that's part of the Unity engine namespace, can you get a reference to that instance of the script, or is it static?
No, it's I believe it's static. You can't have like I don't think you can have like just a public state machine behavior on side of a script. Like, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Like this?
If it's serialized, can you,
Well, hold on, skeleton attack state behavior like this, and let's see if it comes up. Yeah, I don't know how you would go about doing that. What's the usage?
so you could get values from the same object to do different things?
Right.
Because if you want to do IK, every character is going to be different. Like, you may not want to position the hands and feet the same way for every single model.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think that would just be some specific stuff for each individual one. There's probably another way to go about doing it with like masking things, but the last thing that I'll show you with this is basically just like the types of information that you get. So whenever the state exits, you have the animator that did it, state info and layer index. So since you have animator, I think that you can actually get the game object that came with it. Well, I guess you just do animator that game object. So whenever the state exits, you can get a reference to the actual animator that did it, which means you can actually get a reference to the game object that did it, which means that you can send events back up to your player controller or whatever's managing this thing to let it know, hey man, that animation ended. You're now free to go about your business. Okay? And that's huge because like I said before, if you look at Unity Chan, the way that she's set up, while she does work, Unity Chan locomotion. Yeah. Hobos. Unity Fighting Chan. Let's try that one.
That's actually pretty simple though. The way the Unity channel animators are all set up is those animations just play on the next call.
So
you'll just go like doing this like that.
yeah, this is that was a different animator controller though than this one. So this has, like, if you wanted to know what state you're in, you're gonna have to declare some integer values that would then be maps to the animator itself. Okay, so the animator generates numbers that are specific to each individual states. It makes hash integers for them. So animator.string to hash, and then you say base layer.idle, base layer.locomotion. This is not feasible for complex like animation rigs, man. One of the examples that I saw, let me see here. I'll just show you guys. If you wanted to keep track of all your states, this would be a nice. Bruh, look at this.
Oh, shit, good.
Well, that was a good one right there. But like, if you look at this right here,
It gets me excited.
and this isn't a postmark. I can't wait to read this. But yeah, so like you have characters that perform tons and tons of actions, man. You can't rely on a straight mapping to those states because it's just not feasible. The number of state, every time you add a new state or some new functionality, it's just, it goes completely out the window because you need to, just because you're trying to keep track of the actual state that the animator's in. If you use state machine behaviors, you could just broadcast messages and just say, yeah, I'm this state, well, I finished. And on this state finishing, do another thing, okay? As someone that's scripting out the animations, you're already keeping track of that. So questions? Yeah.
Like in standard assets, third person controller, they use a boolean that's called essentially grounded.
Yeah.
And that is loosely a state, both on the animator and in that script. And based on that boolean, they do different logic,
Yeah.
both in the animator and in the script.
Yeah.
I mean, how else could you really achieve something like that?
Well, you see, the Boolean makes sense because it's like when you're in that state, there's a lot of different things that are gonna fire. Like if you look at this animator, right? He starts off in this grounded state, and then he'll transition to an airborne if he's not on the ground, and then he'll come back off an airborne if it's some like height is less than a number and you're not on the ground. When you're dealing with character controllers that do this kind of check, it's fine because like if you go into grounded, man, this is a pretty complex blend tree. All right, that's performing like a lot of different blends between them, and then these are just driven by directional values. Okay, so if you're blending between animations in locomotion, Booleans would suffice. I don't think that there is a better way to manage that. I mean, it's clean and it's very straightforward that if you're in this state, do this. And if you ever receive some Boolean that says you're up in the air to transition, if you immediately eat a trigger whenever you go up in the air, you have to keep track of that. And if someone comes in and starts pumping triggers into the actual animator controller, those things just queue up. So like as soon as you come back down, you go back up. You come back down, you come back up. It's not easy to maintain or keep track of. Triggers should only be really used if like you pass something. You fire an event that's going to put him into like a one-shot type state, not a state that he's going to be sitting in for a while, because you can't really depend. The Boolean is like a strong binding to that state in itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just meant more like because there is a grounded boolean. Things like apply root motion gets turned to false when you're in the air. Um, the ground normal changes. Like there's just like different. It's like the code just flips from doing one thing to doing something else. And that's based on essentially the animator's current state.
You sure about that? Because I mean, whenever you hit the jump button and I mean, it's already driving these up right here. Whenever you look at the state, so
Well, you become airborne anytime a raycast fails to hit the ground. It
Right.
starts at the bottom of your feet.
Yeah.
And it goes down at whatever.
Yeah, probably it does like a distance check between the feet and the ground itself, and then if you're up in the air, yeah.
So it's not even relying on the jumping press. Like you could just walk off of a ledge, and that would consider you airborne because I mean you are, but like I said, that's like almost like a coupling, but it's not a coupling because you're not checking constantly. You know,
Yeah.
like it's an you're internally holding that state until the raycast succeeds and hits the ground again, and then you swap the boolean. But that's where my question came from, was like that's synchronization between the animator and the script, but it's not like a hard linkage. Like neither of them are asking the other. Well, the animator is getting fed the information, but the script holds that state.
Yeah. So I'll just say this, like the way that the third-person character controller is set up, like that was done whenever the first standard assets came, and there hasn't been much changing with it. Like I would love to see how they would do it now that they have the state machine behavior. I could say right now, as far as the project that I'm currently working on with, there's like it's a project where you have a dog, and then the dog basically does jumping, and then he does a double jump, and then he can like flip around. The current workflow for us is that the programmers can't touch the art assets. Okay, so usually we don't even have them. Like for instance, with the sliding and the quick turn, flopping back, what we do is we just plot out exact positional information and then drive a state machine that whenever it hits that state in the state machine, it sends an event to the animator controller letting it know, hey, I went to this state, you go do that thing. So it ends up just being basically a tree that just has transitions from a neutral position. Like your entry state in the animator controller goes, okay, I can go from idle to up in the air and flipping around. So like as soon as we transition to that state, we just send an event to the idle state inside and then let it know that you can transition up. And then whenever we're done, we know specifically whenever we're supposed to end that state. So whenever we leave that state, we tell the animator controller that we're done, and then it transitions back. So it's working good now, but if we're trying to get some kind of complex behavior later, we're probably not going to be able to achieve it without a complete refactor of the entire animation system. This is one of those small team type woes to try to accommodate for every single thing, where we're actually limited with IK because of that. So, does that answer your question? Yeah. I mean, the state machine behavior class is there for a reason. They implemented it because people were having tons of problems syncing animations properly, especially whenever they introduced the inverse kinematics functionality with Mecanim, because that's really where it shines. To have a guy walk and then grab a thing and his entire body moves, that's awesome. It's amazing to be able to do that at runtime. But it comes with its complications as well. And that's why whenever state machine behaviors came out, we have complete control over every single thing that's going on in the actual state. Because, I mean, you can have latency that occurs. If you look at animator controllers, they'll tell you how often they update. And this is how often the animator controller is going to update. But, dude, your mono behavior script that's controlling this dude, if he's maintaining syncs and all of that, you're going to have a nightmare. Like, trying to keep track of every single thing because it's so consolidated inside of the actual game object that's running around in runtime.
Because I mean, this is the thing that now it's like there's one script that takes input.
Yeah.
And it sends it to another script, and that script takes the input and converts it into animated parameters.
Mm-hmm.
But
Man.
But it also like has its own internal state that it hopes is matching up with the animator. If that ever gets lost for whatever reason, which it shouldn't, but I mean, who knows?
Oh, it will. Like it
just breaks.
Yeah, so the idea behind it for best practices regarding this is that your controller is just going to do what it does every update call, okay? So I'm going to take positional information and I'll feed it to the actual animator controller. And then you start sending those events out, and then you can have the animator controller do callbacks to that script to let it know that it's good. One of the problems that you're still going to run into with syncing is the fact that like you'll end up with a ton of scripts that just go shoot this thing out and then return like immediately. So it's like, okay, user pressed input and then okay, guy moves, and then you just okay, I'm gonna send that trigger there and then send the trigger to the animator controller and then return out because I'm now in a brand new state. But if you don't do that, you're still gonna have problems, man. It's like the sync problem isn't completely fixed. It's just providing yourself with an abstraction away from the animator controller, understanding that the animator controller should just operate completely independent of the inputs that it's like receiving. You know, like somebody should not go, "Hey, animator controller, are you ready?" It should be more along the lines of, "I told the animator to do something." And then I'll just write my code to accommodate for receiving some kind of callback that lets me know it's okay to go to the next state. Okay.
And this is not a question, but rather just like
Observation.
like,
Statement.
Could we just try this real quick?
Yeah.
If you make you already have a state machine behavior. You just go to that state machine behavior. And like on state enter, you do a animator.gameObject.send message.
Okay. So what are you trying to do?
And then you call a function which takes in an object. This would send it itself as that parameter, and then see what.
Yeah, I see where you're getting. Like if you just had a bunch of references to like state machine behaviors inside of the script itself.
So like the way to go back from this state machine behavior to an actual instance game object, and one of your own scripts is to do like that, just to send a message to all the components on the game object and send yourself as a reference.
I'm pretty sure you could do it, but I don't know what other problems. I know that I ran into an issue trying to pass this thing in as a reference before. Because like this skeleton attack state behavior could be, you could attach this thing to any state. So that's breaking that design already. Like if you put skeleton attack state behavior, because it's supposed to be specific to that state itself, okay? Where you want things like on state update gives you positional information. Like you should just be broadcasting like did it reach the IK goal or whatever, then broadcast back out as a just a string representation. I'll try it. I just don't want to fumble it is all in syntax and stuff. So
And can the state machine behavior have serialized variables?
yeah, it can. It can. So
And then are those, well, is the class itself per animator or per state? Or,
well,
so like when you add that script to a state,
Mhm.
and then you add that same script to another state, is that 2 instances now?
yeah, I think so. I think they're both separate instances. The
Okay.
question that he's asking is basically, can you serialize variables? And the answer is yes, you can. You can totally serialize these variables. The next question that he had was, if we create another state and then we add another one here, like this one's at 2.69, and then this one right here is at 0.63. So you could have like different skeleton attack state behaviors per state. Okay.
So then I guess it's also per animator as well.
Yeah, totally. Questions?
Not really.
Yeah, y'all are zoning out on me. So, tomorrow what we'll do is we'll go over like another example with this and getting it set up, and like basically there's how to move the dude around, how to make him jump around, and then we'll set up some custom scripts that allow us to do that. Remember, the purpose of this is to give you an introductory exposure to setting up animations inside of Unity, and maybe give you some, experience just dealing with FBX importing in general. Is it? All right.